Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight series. My name is Claudia Thompson and today I'm here with Carly Jermyn, CEO and solicitor of residential landlord and tenant law for Woodstock Legal Services in Poole. And she's also a mum of 3 boys and an export juggler. Jesus. And I just have to say it. You have to live it. So we'll get through all
It's
of that later. But why don't you start and tell us how you got into residential and tenant law and how Woodstock Legal Services came to be?
Yeah, so I was qualified solicitor working in a very normal traditional law firm, and I did wider property litigation. And my first child, Jasper, came along, and I think I was just quite daunted and couldn't really understand how I would go back into a traditional law firm and be the mum that I wanted to be at the same time and do litigation. You know, sometimes in litigation you're working long hours, you've got trials, that sort of thing. And the residential landlord and tenant law was something that a niche of mine that I'd really started to build. And I thought, do you know what, why don't I focus on that? And, you know, I can do that alongside, Jasper, my first child that arrived. And I joined up with another ex-colleague who was in the same boat. She was on her 3rd child, so she was on the other end of it, and was again of the view she couldn't see how she could manage those 3 children and going back into traditional law firm. You know, and we are going back 10 years now, so things have improved, but things were different, to a degree back then. So we joined forces. I did the residential landlord and tenant work, the litigation, and she did transactional work. And Woodstock was, in essence, was created as a vehicle for us to allow us to do the work we wanted to do for our clients and have a life at the same time and manage those two. And it just worked incredibly well. And then we realized it worked so well for us that it could work really well for others. And we welcomed 2 other consultants, again, another one in her area and one doing similar work to me, but slightly different. And we saw how it worked fantastically with them as consultants, and it's grown from there.
Wow, what a fantastic story. And yeah, it's one of my favorite philosophies as well. It's like the business that you start or that you own should give you more life and should be your vehicle to do whatever it is that you want your life to be. So this is a great story. Yeah. Oh, and I love that you give other people the same opportunities as well. So you're giving.
Yeah, and that's what's so rewarding about the business. And when I have, I'd have to count the amount of consultants we've got now, but about in the 30s. And when you hear other people that are juggling children or something else in their life, to hear them say that they're able to have their career and that, it's not easy. It's still not easy, but it's much more, it is easier, with this structure and this flexibility. So, when you hear that from other people, it's incredibly rewarding. Or when you hear it from their family, there's been the odd husband or partner that said to me, thank you, this has been fantastic for our family overall. So that's incredibly rewarding.
Fantastic. And apart from an amazing mission, what other attributes what would you attribute your success to?
I think the key thing for us has been our people and our culture at Woodstock. It is very different to a traditional law firm, and that's intentional. It's about creating a culture that's not so much of a hierarchy, but a support network, a community. And that is really appealing to a lot of people. And I think, even more so coming out of the pandemic, and even though we have remote working, it's the still feeling part of something. So you can create, I could create a consultancy firm that's got fantastic infrastructure, but if people don't feel like they belong, or there's nothing holding us all together, then I don't think it would be as successful. So a lot of it is to do with the right people and offering something different to what's already out there. There are plenty of other law firms you can go and work for. There are plenty of other law firms you can go and instruct if you're a client. And there's consultancy firms out there, but I feel we're a little bit different. It's not about just collecting sheer volumes of people, but it's about bringing the right people together and providing a fantastic infrastructure that allows them to, do a fantastic job for their clients and, do it well and balance it alongside, the other demands of life. whether that's family or wanting to go on loads of holidays or looking after, you know, elderly parents, all of that, you know, we've all got going on. I think, you know, Woodstock enables people to do that.
Fantastic. And you touched on the importance of having the right people around you. What qualities do you look for in your employees, and how do you make sure they enjoy coming to work or working for Woodstock?
I think qualities wise, it's, for me, the most important thing is your attitude to learning, the ability to cope with change, because we're a fast growing business. So, you know, that's really important because it is constantly changing. And I think team, for me, people that want to be part of a team and want to support other members of the team. And I think they've been our most successful employees and have really contributed to our growth. You know, and it's attitude. And I think a lot of our lawyers are incredibly personable, like all of them are. And I think that's what sets us apart for clients as well. So yeah, I think that's key for me when I'm looking for people.
And how do you make sure they or how do you create a positive and productive work environment?
I think bringing the right people together is really important, because if you don't have those people and there's somebody who doesn't buy into that or believe in that, that can really disrupt the team. And, you know, we have had that over the years. And we're always constantly trying to work to make sure we've got the right people and the right team together. And you know, law firms are interesting places. Obviously, you know, a lot of them bill by the hour, they have heavy targets, they're monitored on how much chargeable time they do. And yeah, we have to do that to a degree. We have one employed team, which is the team I grew, the residential landlord tenant team. And with that team, we do have to monitor some of that, but it's in a very step back way, because I don't believe that really hard pushing on how many chargeable hours you've done and heavy target pushing on individuals creates a very healthy work environment. And, you know, there's so much research out there, there's true stories out there how it's really crippled people. So whilst it's important and it's a business and we have to be profitable, we do it in a way that it's much more about, you know, how can we help you reach those targets, being open and honest about what we need to hit, how can we do it as a team, who needs support, rather than you must do 5 hours chargeable time a day, you must bill this a month, if you don't, you come and tell me why you've not done it, which unfortunately is the culture elsewhere. So with the employed team, you know, for me, that's really important. And making sure people do have that true work-life balance. And even, you know, the consultants have it because they have complete control over their time and they choose the work they take on. And what I try and do is foster as much of that as I can with the internal team, whilst still ensuring that the business operates smoothly and is profitable. Because at the end of the day, that's, you know, why we're all here, you know, and people need to be paid. So, you know, it'd be lovely if it was, you know, money was no object, but, you know, obviously that is one of the key driving forces of the business. So it's getting that balance. But for me, that's really important to ensure people have true flexibility, true work-life balance, and that we listen to them. So.
And on the flip side of that, what would you say have been your biggest learnings as an employer?
I absolutely stand out. There's probably two. Obviously, cash is king when you're growing. You know, that can be incredibly difficult to navigate. So understanding all of that, and I'm, you know, I'm not a numbers person, I'm a lawyer, so I had to get my head around all of that pretty quickly, and I'm still learning. But I think the most important thing, and it comes back to people, is bringing on the right people and trusting my gut. And where I have had doubts about whether that person's the right person, all in all, I've been proved correct. They haven't been right for Woodstock, you know. So I think, you know, trusting your gut as whether that person is the right fit, and not feeling like I just need to get somebody in that position because we're growing very quickly and we need that role filled. To trust my gut and go, no, we'll wait. You know, as much as they might want to do the job, they might not be ready, or they, you know, they might be fantastic, but they might just not be right for Woodstock.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that work-life balance is very important for you, and you've got 3 boys. You run a business. You went to the gym this morning. How do you do it all? What's your secret to a healthy work-life balance?
I mean, I don't always achieve it. I think you have to be completely honest. I mean, sometimes I think I'm nailing this. You know, I've had a lovely day with the children. You know, work's great. Everything's under control. Everyone's doing what they need to be doing. You know, I've managed to squeeze in the gym, maybe some time with my husband, and then other times you're not achieving it. So I think it's about being realistic and not looking for perfection, but it's incredibly important. I try and keep, you know, if I'm with the children, I'm with the children. I'm at work, I'm at work. And then making sure that I book that time in to go to the gym, because it makes me feel so much better. Makes, you know, I know I'm looking after myself. You have to look after yourself to make sure that you can look after other people. It's like when you're on a plane and they say, you know, put your life jacket and your oxygen mask on first. It's absolutely true. And I think that's been a hard lesson for me to learn. And there's times I've not done that. And then I started to see it unravel. And you can only do that for a period of time. So for me, yeah, it's about isolating that time and making sure when I'm with the kids, they've got my attention. And when I'm at work, that's got my attention. Because when you start dipping out for two of them, that can get incredibly difficult. And it's, you know, it's really hard, you know, it's not easy. I've got a strong network around me, in terms of family and friends. And I think, you know, you support other people and they support you, and you build, it's the same as Woodstock, you're building that community. That's incredibly important. And, you know, I've needed to lean on that with, you know, friends and family in order to be able to do this. You know, and my husband as well.
So make time for yourself, have a good support network, and just make sure you schedule it in.
Yeah.
And be present wherever you are.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because otherwise, and I think the key thing I've learned, it's about, particularly with the children, it's about quality of the time you're with them. And rather than, you know, I can't be there every minute of the day, but they don't need you to be there every minute of the day. You know, I've got three very strong, independent, confident children. But when I'm with them, I want them to know, you know, that I'm there, and we do some great fun stuff together. You know, it's bedtimes, you're making sure that you have that downtime and you're listening. And that's when boys don't tend to open up throughout the day. They don't want big conversations. It's high energy, adrenaline all day. And that's the quiet time in the evening. So I always make sure I'm there for that, you know, and it's understanding where you get that quality of time and what their needs are. And it changes over the years. Very different from when I had, you know, my third child. I had, you know, he was strapped to me as a newborn, and, you know, I had to come in the office and do the payroll. And, you know, it's not ideal. It would have been lovely to be at home, just dealing with feeding and all that. But he's my third child, and knew what I was doing, you know, not your first rodeo. You just get on with it. And actually, he was, you know, strapped to me permanently. And yeah, I might have had to be doing a bit of work, but he had, you know, lots of my time, care and attention in a very different way. You know, and now they're bigger and they're older. It's, you know, the challenges are completely different. So, you know, I've had to adjust and, you know, change my habits and, you know, all of that sort of thing. It's more about ferrying them to clubs and stuff now, which I could do. You know, I can sit in the car and do some work while I'm watching football. So
fantastic. And it definitely sounds like you've found your feet and you're doing a lot of things right. But is there anything that you would do differently now if you had to start from square one?
I don't think you can say that, because I think it's a journey, and I think you're learning. And yeah, there's a few things you think, oh, that probably wasn't the right decision at the time, but you learn so much. And, you know, would you be here if you hadn't had those, you know, tough, smaller lessons? So I wouldn't. You know, I wouldn't. And like I say, you're continuously learning. I think I'd be less hard on myself and stop and pause now and again and say, you know, this is really hard, because it is really hard. It's really brilliant at the same time. And, you know, look back and just, you know, be proud of what you achieved now and again, just stop and pause. And I've, you know, looked back earlier as well and said, oh, you know, this is going well. But yeah, I think it's a journey. You're continuously learning, so I wouldn't change anything.
Okay. Excellent. And what do you think are some common misconceptions that people have about running a business?
That it's in any way easy, and that, you know, just because you're the boss, you can do what you like. You know, it's not like that. It's incredibly challenging. You're responsible for, you know, huge amounts of people. You know, you feel you're responsible for making sure they get paid and the business is successful and they can progress their careers. And it's really, really tough. And, you know, there's times you think, oh God, can I do this? You know, would another route be easier? Would being employed be easier? Just knowing, you know, that month you get paid that, you know, do your job, work hard and you get paid. And it's, you know, in theory, quite simple. So I think that's the biggest misconception of how hard it can be. And, you know, it can be quite lonely, being CEO and owning your own business. And that can be really tough, but it is incredibly rewarding at the same time. So yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I completely agree with everything. That already wraps up our interview.
Thank you.
How can people find out more about you? How can they get in touch?
On LinkedIn, yeah, details on there, so you can find me on LinkedIn, or, you know, on our website at Woodstock Legal Services.
Cool. Thank you so much, Carly. It's been an
Brilliant. Thank you,
absolutely
Claudia.
pleasure to have you.
And you, thank you very much. Speak to you soon.